Picking a good niche for Amazon KDP is probably one of the most important decisions you can make in your entire publishing business. And if you clicked on this video, I'm guessing you already knew that, and you're here because you want to find the best niche in 2024 that hasn't been completely flooded with competitors yet. So I'll just get straight to the point. What is the best Amazon KDP niche in 2024 that no one is talking about on YouTube? Well, the truth is, there is no such thing as a best niche. Now hold on, before you click off this video, let me explain to you why this is actually a really good thing. Because while there isn't such thing as a best niche, there is a best way to find highly profitable and untapped niches that suit you and your business. And in a second, you'll understand why this is actually far more valuable than just finding a single niche that someone's made a YouTube video about. So in this video, I'll explain why there's no such thing as a best niche, why you don't want to actually find this best niche anyway, and finally, I'll show you how to actually find untapped and profitable niches anytime you want. So that way you can gain an edge over your competition without having to rely on YouTube videos from online gurus ever again. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Sam, and over the past 4.5 years, I've created hundreds of Amazon KDP books that have made me over $250,000 in royalties just on Amazon KDP alone. So what do I mean when I say there is no such thing as a best niche? Well, one of the biggest problems I see in the Amazon KDP space on YouTube is everyone claiming they found the perfect niche just to get views. But in reality, all they're doing is screwing over beginners, because the moment they make a video about a certain niche, everyone starts making books in that niche. And within months, that niche no longer becomes profitable because everyone has flooded the market and there is way too much competition. Then once the wave has died down, these YouTubers then will make another video about another trendy niche, and the cycle just repeats itself. But the truth is, the reason there is no best niche is because the best niches are always changing, and that is also a really good thing for Amazon KDP publishers. And the most important factors that determine how good a niche is are supply and demand. In other words, the more people that want to consume content in a given niche, and the less people that are trying to sell books in that niche, the better it is. But here's the problem. Niches that are high demand and low supply will always eventually even out over time as more and more people find out about it. Now, I'm sorry to break it to you, but this means that no single niche will be highly profitable forever. But again, this isn't a bad thing. And what does this mean for you? Well, this means as KDP business owners, what we really want isn't a best niche, but rather a reliable system that consistently helps us find profitable niches. That way, we aren't betting on our entire business on a single trend or a lucky break. We'll know exactly what the best niches are and why we were able to find them in the first place. Now, I'll show you exactly what that system looks like in just a moment. But first, before we can come up with a good research strategy, we have to figure out what makes a good niche in the first place. So earlier I mentioned that supply and demand are the most important factors that determine whether a niche is worth picking or not. But there's also a few other important factors we want to consider when picking a niche. So one big problem I see in the KDP space is that most beginners have absolutely no idea how to pick a niche, and they basically just pick whatever they see on YouTube or whatever somebody else tells them to pick, without even realizing or understanding why they're doing it. And the big problem with that is that they're ignoring several key considerations that heavily affect whether they'll actually be able to succeed with that niche or not. And because most of these beginners have absolutely no idea, they still end up getting terrible results even if they manage to pick a good niche. So what are the key considerations or criteria you need to look at when picking a niche? Now, here's the important thing. Every single niche will be different, so there's no hard and fast rule of exactly what makes a good niche, but here are some general guidelines. The first thing you need to do is to see if there's actually proof of concept within a niche. So are there current books within that niche that are selling well? Now, in my opinion, a rough guide of this is if there's a book under 80,000 BSR in the US store or under 50,000 BSR in the UK store, exactly like the book that you're looking to produce in the same niche, then that shows that there is demand for this niche because people are buying this book already and there's clearly a need for a similar one like it. Now, the reason these BSRs change between marketplaces is simply because there's more products on the US marketplace, so therefore a higher number of the US BSR actually means more sales than it would in the UK. But don't worry too much about that, just aim for roughly these kinds of numbers. You can also see if there is good demand for a niche by typing in a really relevant search term to that niche and seeing what related keywords come up off the back of that. If there are loads of related keywords to a main keyword in a niche, that just shows that there is huge demand around this entire niche as a whole. Now moving on to competition, and there's kind of two layers to competition: the physical number of competitors you're against and how highly those books are ranked in terms of their reviews. Now generally speaking, if there's more than 3 books exactly like the book that you'd like to produce in a niche, I would generally say that's too much competition, especially if they're selling really well and they have really good reviews. However, if there's a book in your niche that's still selling quite well but has 4 stars or less in its overall review score, I would see that as a really good opportunity to break in and steal the sales in that niche. That's because if people are still buying this book, even though some people clearly aren't enjoying it, it shows that there is so much demand that if someone actually came in with a product that fully satisfies this audience that this existing book isn't doing, you can make so much money. So it's not as simple as just looking at the number of books in a niche. You also have to factor in the review score of these books as well. Now I go into extensive detail of exactly how you can do this judgment on my KDP Mastery course in my coaching program, which you'll be able to find in the link in the description down below. Now before I go into how to go and find the right niche for you based on these criteria, there's a really important topic I want to address that most of you are probably thinking about, and that is whether you should do low content or high content books in 2024. Now the reason I want to address this first is because each content type has its own set of profitable niches and certain rules to follow. And since the content creation strategy is usually quite different for each one, you don't want to be switching your entire business strategy every single time you switch niches. So it's important to know which content type best suits the type of KDP business you want to build before you go niche hunting. All right, so let's start with low content. Low content is the kind of book you see get pushed mostly by gurus on YouTube. And the truth is, while they used to work really well in the past, they don't work so well these days. This is because as more people have moved into Amazon KDP and started publishing their own books, because low content books are really easy to create and a lot of the time just take downloadable templates online, there is so much more competition. So it's very, very difficult to find a niche that is untapped and especially to stand out within these niches. So generally, I would avoid publishing low content books in 2024, but if you are going to, at least make sure your interior is unique and bespoke rather than just downloading something from the internet, because guess what? If you can download an interior in 1 click, so can your competition. So I would generally say targeting these low content, low effort niches is a pretty good way to guarantee you're gonna fail on KDP in 2024. Now, what about high content? Now, essentially all the issues with low content publishing are covered with high content publishing. So it's much harder to create a high content book than it is a low content book, which means that there is so much less competition and less likelihood someone's gonna come in and take your spot within a niche. However, the nature of that is they are also harder to create and can also be a lot more expensive to create. So high content books, in my opinion, really aren't beginner friendly. So with all that said, what type of content would I recommend for a beginner or someone who's been publishing on Amazon KDP for a little bit of time to start making? Well, it's actually neither low content or high content, but rather medium content book. And just for the record, I personally myself have been creating mostly medium content publishing for the last 4.5 years, and I still mainly focus on this type of content to this day. So as I've mentioned, it's not just for beginners, but for anyone who wants to succeed with Amazon KDP and really scale as an online business. So what exactly is medium content and why am I such a big fan of this content type? So as I've gone through the pros and cons of low content and high content, a medium content book is something that sits in between both of these two book types, and in my opinion takes the best of both worlds and avoids all of the disadvantages of low content and high content. So a medium content book would be something like a detailed coloring book or an activity book, something where each page is entirely unique, so it's difficult to copy. No one else is going to have the same book as you, unlike if you just download a template from online. And it's also not going to cost that much money because each part of the medium content process can be so easily broken down. And finally, anyone can learn to do it, which makes it accessible for not just people who have already published on KDP, but for beginners as well. So if you're looking for a type of book to make that isn't going to break the bank, it isn't going to take you hours and hours to produce, but it's also not going to be easily copied by your competitors, then medium content publishing is the answer. And trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Having moved from low content to medium content publishing myself, 95% of my KDP income comes from just about 5% of my books. And these 5% are all medium content. The remaining 95 are low content, low quality books that just do nothing for me. So now that we know the content type we want to make and actually what makes a good niche, how do we actually find a profitable niche for ourselves before everyone jumps on it and it becomes super saturated? So in case you couldn't tell from this video, the last place you want to find a great niche is on YouTube, because again, the best KDP niches are the ones that have a lot of demand but not a lot of competitors. So if you're waiting until somebody posts a video about a niche that gets hundreds of thousands of views, guess what? You're already too late to the party. Instead, if you're able to actually know how to find your very own profitable niche, it's so much more beneficial and powerful for your KDP business. So, as I've mentioned, there's two main things you really want to look for. I'm going to summarize them now in this part of the video. Number one, competition. Ideally, you want no more than 3 books in the niche that are very similar to the book that you're producing. But with that said, if they all have super low BSRs, i.e. they're all selling really well, then you'll probably get away with being number 4 simply because there is just so much demand in this niche. And remember, Amazon reviews are also your best friend when it comes to niche research. That's because when assessing competition, if any of your competitors' books are ranked 4-star or less, that shows that there's probably something wrong with them and some customers had an issue, and you're easily going to be able to take their spot if you produce a better quality product. Now for demand, 2 main things you want to look at. Firstly, is there a lot of demand around the main keyword in that niche? So if the niche was animal coloring book and you just typed in animal coloring book into the Amazon search bar, look how many related suggestions come up here to just show how much demand there is in this overall niche. And then for more specific information, within a given niche, if there is a book with a UK BSR of less than 50,000 or a US BSR of less than 80,000, it shows that that book is selling well and that demand for that niche is converting into sales for somebody. And what we want to do is also get a piece of that pie and produce a book within that niche that hopefully matches or even surpasses those 2 BSR numbers. So really, don't overcomplicate it. Focus on competition, focus on demand, and you'll realize just how many niches there are out there. Stop looking on YouTube for all of these go-to quick niches, because guess what? They're not going to make you any money. Actually understanding how to use competition and demand in your favor is going to make you so much more successful on Amazon KDP. Now, if you have any questions about any of those things that I've mentioned in this video, then please do leave a comment down below and I'll be more than happy to clarify anything that you need or you need extra help with. Again, these things I mentioned are just general rules and every single niche will be different, but roughly follow these and you won't go wrong. So now that you know how to find your very own profitable KDP niche, the next thing you'll need to have is the right keyword research strategy. But before that, if you just want to skip all of the guesswork and build a successful Amazon KDP business without having to go through years of trial and error exactly like I did, check out the link in the description below and watch the video that I explain the 3 secrets I personally use to grow my Amazon KDP business to multiple 6 figures and how I could potentially help you do exactly the same thing. Otherwise, if you want to learn the best keyword strategy that I've personally used in my KDP business, then you can check out this video here where I talk about everything that you need to know. But I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.